representation on the suicide prevention panel, and members of Shine do all sorts of activities in the community.
Vodafone offer.
We've got representation on the suicide prevention panel, and members of Shine do all sorts of activities in the
Hello.
Hello.
Bananas.
Hello.
It's not fair. Taxi drivers anger over City Council plans to introduce lessons in customer service and health and safety.
Lincolnshire has one of the highest rates of suicide in the country. We look at what's being done to tackle the issue.
And get off that bike. Parts of Lincoln's Festival of Cycling are cancelled after a legal row.
Good afternoon and welcome to LSJ News, live from the University of Lincoln. I'm Lucy Hickmott.
And I'm Adam Tomlinson. We have all the news from around the region, but first, our top story. Taxi drivers in Lincoln are livid after they've been forced into taking a college course costing them £200.
The City of Lincoln Council will make it mandatory for drivers to take a course entitled Introduction to the Role of a Taxi and Private Hire Driver, despite the fact that many have done the job for years.
The council say that failure to complete the course over the next year will result in licences no longer being renewed. We spoke to taxi drivers about the order.
I don't know what to do. I'm thinking about packing in altogether because, as I say, I can't be doing with it really.
More time off, which you can't afford because I was made redundant after 23 and a half years. So
sit at home all day and be grumpy. I don't know. I can't be doing with sitting behind desks and things like that. Them days are gone.
Lincolnshire's only emergency night shelter has been given a new look thanks to a group of volunteers. The team from Vodafone's Newark branch, YMCA Lincolnshire and the Nomad Trust pulled together to give the shelter a new lick of paint. We spoke to Dean Bell, the Housing Services Manager for Lincolnshire YMCA and Nomad Trust, and Adrienne, a volunteer from Vodafone, about the charity day.
Vodafone offered to work with the Nomad Trust and supply materials and labour, etc. It was agreed that we would paint the downstairs of our night shelter.
It's very rewarding because at the end of the day, when you put all the furniture back, you know you've actually achieved something for somebody and they're going to appreciate it.
Across the UK, groups are uniting in order to raise awareness of mental health. Here in Lincoln, organisations such as Shine, Involve and Upbeat are taking part in the campaign to improve facilities and get the word out. The suicide rate across Lincolnshire has been higher than previous years than other counties. Events such as Time to Change aim to give those affected by mental health a time and a place to talk about these issues and discuss suicide prevention. Robert Glenton, director of Shine, believes it's important to get people talking.
We've got representation on the suicide prevention panel and members of Shine do all sorts of activities in the community to try and raise awareness of mental health so that you break the stigma of coming along and accessing mental health services.
Fed up with waiting at the level crossing in Lincoln's High Street? Well, fear not, as the footbridge is rapidly nearing completion over the crossing. Network Rail's project appears to have become fast-tracked after having the frame for the walkway and stairs inserted. After 10 months of construction, the bridge will be finished by March.
And now for some more stories around the region. Elderly people in Lincolnshire have been paying higher energy prices than the cheapest option, according to allegations made by The Sun. Age UK has been criticised for receiving £6 million from energy provider E.ON to encourage people to take the company's deals. Industry regulator Ofgem will now examine the claim.
4,000 people have signed a petition against bus cuts across the county. Campaigners want the council to rethink their plans to cut bus services as part of their budget cuts. The Save Our Buses campaign has gained the high number of supporters in just 2 weeks. The petition will be handed to the County Council.
People in Lincolnshire are more likely to get the right medication thanks to new software being used in doctor surgeries. The groundbreaking project will reduce the risk of patients being prescribed the wrong medication and is being used in 150 surgeries in the East Midlands. It's claimed that in the UK, 1 in 20 prescriptions contains an error.
Work has started today on the £6.8 million Boole Technology Centre in Lincoln. The centre will house more than 20 businesses and create more than 50 jobs. It's part of the Lincoln Science and Innovation Park, which is hoped to revitalise the area.
Moving on to politics, with a referendum on Britain's membership with the European Union potentially being held as early as June, what will the campaign look like in Lincoln? Our political correspondent, Calvin Robinson, joins us now to explain the ins and outs. Calvin, what's the current situation on the EU referendum?
Well, after months of negotiations, I assume the Prime Minister would have thought that he actually got somewhere with the deal with the EU after he made a statement to the House of Commons yesterday. But still, MPs such as Boris Johnson and Jacob Rees-Mogg are none the wiser about the European deal and have scared the Prime Minister and criticised him on the subject. And we still haven't actually got a date for the referendum, but the early indications are that it could be as early as June.
So who will be campaigning in Lincoln?
Well, it's still early days yet, but it seems as though the City Council, have said that they still have not discussed the EU issue and what stance they're going to take. Carl McCartney MP has said that he's still waiting for David Cameron to get a deal with the European Union and be more clearer on what Britain's relationship will be before he makes a decision.
Thanks for that, Calvin.
A popular social network is celebrating a birthday today and you're invited. Our tech reporter Eleanor Weaver has the details.
Facebook is today celebrating its 12th birthday, and as part of the celebrations, users will be sent a Friends Day video, which reflects on their friendships over the years. Similar to videos produced in celebration of the new year, they will be made up of a collage of photographs which you can edit to avoid sharing any awkward memories. Zuckerberg has said he wants the day to focus on what is important, and so rather than make the day all about Facebook, he wants to make it about friendships. Facebook's active users has doubled since 2011 and now stands at over 1.59 billion. Zuckerberg has also been announced as the fourth wealthiest person in the world, with a net worth of over $35 billion, coming in behind Donald Trump, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates.
And now it's time for our sports news, and we're joined by our sports reporter Kat Talbot, who went down to Sincilbank this morning, with the Imps still celebrating their first win in 11 games.
Well, Saturday's game was very important for Lincoln City. They broke their 11-game winless streak this Saturday, beating Guiseley 1-0. The Imps needed the win to give themselves any chance of reaching the playoffs. Newcomer James Caton wanted to make a big impact on his debut. He describes the atmosphere in the changing rooms after their win.
Everyone's a bit coy because it's like, oh, there's a new player, do you know what I mean? But then when you get into training, you get into the scheme of things, everyone just sounds like lets the guard down, and you know they've all been great. Like, oh, welcome me well. I'm staying in the house with two of the other lads now as well, so I feel like I've bedded in quite well.
The 22-year-old was signed by the club on loan from Shrewsbury Town last week, but after one game already feels welcome by his Lincoln City teammates.
Great changing room to be around, like especially after a win like that, getting back onto winning ways. So now like all the boys are buzzing and like took it into training this week. It's been a good week of training so far.
The Imps play Eastleigh on Saturday. The Lincoln Festival of Cycling has been forced to cancel 3 of its events after a legal dispute with another company. Organisers planned to stage 5 events over a weekend in May, but their schedule has had to change, leaving participants in the dark. Liam Ray explains.
2016 was poised to be a landmark year for cycling in Lincoln, after the announcement of a 3-day event to be held in May. However, after months of legal battles, the newly formed Lincoln Festival of Cycling has been forced to cancel 3 of its planned events, after a dispute with the rival company who had staged a similar event over the last 5 years. This means the Lincoln Criterium, Sportive and Uphill Dash have all been scrapped, leaving a huge amount of confusion surrounding the whole event.
Well, we were hoping to follow the format from 2015's event, where we had in 2015 we had a 4-day weekend, but we were trying to grow what's previously been a single race into a 3-day weekend, because the city and everybody came out and enjoyed the city centre racing, the uphill dash, and all the extra events that were supporting the Grand Prix races. So we just really wanted to restructure the format of the weekend and rebuild it to make it possible to have all of those events. Sadly we ended up in a position where the previous the sportive organiser for the previous years effectively doesn't like the idea that the Velo Club and the event organiser can say, well, actually we don't want the sportive that you organise as part of our weekend.
So why did the festival have to cancel some of its events? Well, a separate company, ITP Events, had been running a separate Lincoln Sportive for the last 5 years. The Festival of Cycling decided to include a sportive on their 2016 schedule, and ITP wanted money from the festival organisers to use the naming rights. The Festival of Cycling gathered the money, but it wasn't enough, resulting in the planned events having to be cancelled. However, despite the loss of 3 events, Elmore and the festival organisers still plan to hold their first ever Women's Grand Prix, as well as the Men's Grand Prix, which will be running for the 60th year. Liam Ray, LSJ Today, Lincoln.
We'll have the national sports stories, including the start of the Six Nations weekend at 4 o'clock.
So we'll have more sports news and tech news when we come up at 4 p.m. later. Lucy, have you seen your Facebook Friends Day today?
I haven't actually. I wasn't aware that Facebook was 12 years old, so it's been going for quite a while.
I've put some very flattering pictures online. You won't like to see it.
I'll have a look later.
Who has more friends, do you reckon, me or you?
Oh, definitely you. I don't have hardly any. Yeah.
Well, anyway, we'll go on to the weather now, and it will stay largely cloudy before we head into the evening, with rainy spells expected around 8 p.m. The rain is set to clear as we go into tomorrow morning, with the temperatures around 10 degrees. However, it won't stay dry for long, as heavy spells of rain are expected from 9 p.m. tomorrow evening.
We'll have to take our brollies out with us if we go out tomorrow night then.
Yeah.
Before we go, here's a final look at today's headlines. Taxi drivers are angry over City Council plans to introduce lessons in customer service and health and safety.
Lincolnshire has one of the highest rates of suicide in the country.
And parts of Lincoln's Festival of Cycling have been cancelled after legal row.
That's all for your news at lunch. You can join us at 4 o'clock for LSJ Today.
And you can follow us on Twitter at LSJ Tweets and on our Facebook for more updates in the meantime.
But that's all for now. Goodbye.